Hello there and welcome to another episode of the Long Live Rock and Roll podcast. To my right, as usual, is my co-host, Mr. Felipe Amorim. How's it going, man?
All good. How you guys doing? There's no coffee or beer today. Wow. Because I had so many coffees. I had 4 coffees today.
We've recorded. We're doing this thing now where because we haven't toured together for a while. We haven't played together for a while. We've got another one coming up in September, but. We're getting together. I'm coming to London once a month. Felipe comes to me. So I go to London 1 month. Felipe comes to me the next month. I go. And we just record a bunch of episodes in the day, really. But Felipe's had 4 coffees already today.
And full on.
we had
and one of them was a double espresso. Yeah. So you can count this as 5 coffees.
we had breakfast together this morning with 2 mochas each.
Yeah.
Then Felipe got home and he had a double espresso. Then we had an espresso before the first episode we recorded. We had an espresso before the second episode. Now this is the third one we're doing.
So if I'm overexcited,
he's bouncing off the walls. Yes, I've got to keep him restrained.
So as there's no beer, no coffee, I'm gonna get the show started with sparkling water.
Rock and roll.
Rock and fucking roll.
Anyway, welcome to the show.
I intend to drink it by the end of the
It's a hot day, you should, yeah. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. Today we are discussing an album. It's an album-specific episode, and this one, funnily enough, actually was my uncle who kept saying to me, when are you going to do this album? So I thought it'd actually be interesting just to say quickly that we're 20 episodes into our podcasting career now. I think what we found this nice balance of Felipe choosing a band, me choosing a band, Felipe choosing an album, me choosing an album. And I like the way that we're doing these episodes. I like the flow of them. I like what we talk about. So I'd actually like to open up the floor to our listeners. At the bottom of the show notes is our email address. If there is a band or an album that you would like us to discuss, do a whole episode about, please get in touch and let us know. We're willing to take these requests now. Listen, down the line, I would love to do an album about why the rapper Notorious B.I.G. is rock and roll, in quotation marks. But let's keep it proper rock for now, whilst we're still in the early days. So don't be sending us stuff of why is Justin Bieber rock and roll in the pop industry. Let's keep it rock and roll related now. The normal bands and albums we're doing.
I think Miles Davis is quite rock and roll.
Maybe.
But not now.
But please do get in touch. We'd love to hear about what albums and bands you guys want us to discuss, and we'd be more than willing to do it. So please get in touch. The email address is at the bottom of the show notes, and let us know what you want to hear about. As I said, today is an album episode, and we are doing Van Halen by the band Van Halen. Surprise.
And 2 guys in the band are Van Halen.
With a surname called Van Halen.
Oh, doesn't get more Van Halen than that. Yeah.
Apart from that, his son is called Wolfgang Van Halen, which I think is the most rock and roll name.
It is.
He plays bass for them now. Or no, he died, didn't he? So, but yeah, Wolfgang Van Halen now plays bass in the Van Halen band.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened.
Was playing until Eddie died.
Until Eddie died recently. Yeah. Anyway, so this album, released in February 1978 and recorded in September of 1977 in Hollywood. Interesting, it's only 35 minutes long.
It's a short album, isn't it? I've listened to all of it this morning. It's like, is that it?
Yeah.
I want more.
Well, it doesn't disappoint, does it? It leaves you wanting more, and that's not a bad thing. I think an interesting thing, if you type this album into Google and look for articles about it, I think one very interesting and consistent thing you'll see is that this album is actually credited with being the beginnings of glam rock, glam metal, pop metal, that sort of vibe. I think if you look at the band, if you look at the album cover and you listen to the music, it's quite evident and obvious to hear where bands like Whitesnake, Guns N' Roses, Poison all got their image and sound from.
Yeah,
is that a fair comment?
It is, but that's 78, right?
Yeah,
so
it's early, it's before those bands.
All that stuff that people were wearing on the 80s wasn't available yet. So when you see David Lee Roth and Eddie with those colourful outfits and stuff, it's the beginnings of that. Really.
It is, yeah.
It's not like full on glam,
no.
And I wouldn't call them a glam rock band. They were so much more focused on the music than the visuals, but the visuals were important. I mean,
It was their image, wasn't it? It was the photo shoots, the videos.
And the fact that the album cover features them playing live, or they are in the studio pretending to be doing a gig, but looks like a band on stage.
I did want to talk about the album cover. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah,
because I haven't seen anything like it from before that time.
No.
You see the Beatles, the Beatles in their suits, all posing at a park. But I've never seen the energy in
Is
a
that
in a
the
live
original album cover, though? Is it?
I haven't seen any other ones. Yeah.
So that's
it's
the one.
Brilliant.
So
I've never seen the energy.
The band's logo.
The only one I can compare it to is the Elvis album we did. Remember where he's playing the acoustic guitar?
The acoustic
Fantastic, but great album artwork, and I love the logo of the V and the H. It's very cool. But yeah, should we get started?
Yeah.
I thought the production, just to talk about the production of it quickly, was really interesting. I mean, the producer was a guy called Ted Templeman, and it's a very polished album.
I love the production.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Because you've got this fantastic, throughout the whole album, each chorus is a 3-part harmony. You've got the three of them singing beautifully written harmonies, and they're perfect. Remember we spoke about the band a few episodes ago and we talked about their harmonies, but their harmonies, intentionally, were a bit loose.
Yeah.
They weren't always in time, but that's because of the vibe they were going for.
Yeah.
This is polished harmonies with a raw live hard rock band, isn't it? Which almost doesn't, it shouldn't fit.
But it does.
It does, exactly.
And it's funny because I didn't hear many guitar overdubs. They pretty much sound like a live band sound.
Well, they recorded it as a trio with the bass, guitar and drums in one room and David Lee Roth in another room doing the vocals.
So that's recorded live.
The only thing they added was some guitar overdubs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's as good as you're right. It's as good as a live album.
Yeah,
and it's fantastic because the tightness of this album is just magnificent, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. One thing that has to be said is like the Van Halen brothers were geniuses, really.
Yeah.
Like in terms of the way they play their instruments. You might not be familiar with this, but Eddie Van Halen was initially a drummer, and Alex was initially a guitar player, and until they figure out they could play each other's instruments better.
Do you know what happened?
Swapped.
Have you read more into this?
No.
As they started, so Eddie was the drummer, Alex was the guitarist.
Yeah.
They both kept, when they were out of the house, they both kept touching each other's instruments. So whilst Alex was out of the house, Eddie nicked his guitar, and they kept getting pissed off at each other for using each other's instruments. So they just got to a moment where they were like, "Should we just swap?"
Just swap, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Good for the world of music.
Good for rock and roll. Yeah, fantastic story. Yeah, sorry, please carry on.
But they're like so good. And Alex Van Halen is kind of underrated as a rock drummer. Sometimes people wouldn't mention him amongst the maybe top 5 or top 10 rock drummers.
Do you think he has a place there?
Oh God, yeah.
Really? Okay,
he's so good. His knowledge of jazz and Latin music is amazing. He was such a great musician. He's such a great drummer.
Are there any examples off the top of your head we can put in the playlist for listeners? Any other stuff he's done?
I wouldn't say specifically from this album. No. He incorporates those elements into rock music. It's not great. You're not gonna. I'm not sure if he ever recorded a jazz album, Latin album.
Right.
But some of the stuff he plays on the right cymbal, and some of the swing he adds to the groove, even when he's playing like double kick, which is quite heavy metal. He plays with a blues swing, with a triplet feel, shuffle feel. So it's really, really interesting. He brings a lot of that into his music. And Eddie Van Halen, because of the distortion on his guitar, you wouldn't identify too many elements outside rock because of the sound of it.
Yeah.
But he does have influence of different styles like
I'm talking about
acoustic,
Eddie now. Yeah.
Acoustic guitar and all this stuff, classical guitar probably, and it's all in there. And the thing is, we were talking to a friend of ours earlier today, Felipe Drago, who lived in LA and studied music there. One of his teachers saw the Van Halen brothers jamming at a club after one of their gigs, and they said it was phenomenal, playing Eddie on drums and Alex on guitar, and then they swapped, and they played fusion. They played he said it was as good as Mahavishnu Orchestra or that kind of stuff that you see like fusion and jazz players doing, as complex and beautiful and interesting as any sort of advanced instrumental music you can think of. So they were really phenomenal. They are. I mean, talking about Alex is still phenomenal. phenomenal musicians. Yeah,
This is what 30, 40 years ago.
yeah, exactly. But then you think about this album, it's very straightforward, isn't it? If you obviously you can tell how fantastic the guitar playing is, but isn't it in terms of style of playing? Sometimes just playing basic riffs.
So innovative, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you?
No, I'm saying like, although there is like all the innovation and all the complexity of the guitar playing, it's mostly straightforward hard rock with simple riffs.
Yeah.
The riffs.
And that's
I'm not saying that's easy to play, but simple.
But there's a fantastic. It's almost conflicting because, like you said, there's simplicity in the riffs, and then all the shit he does on the guitar, all the
solos and the effects.
There's this thing called a dive bomb, which is a technical. Well, I don't know if it's technical. It's a slang term for guitar, which is where you play a pinch harmonic. Now, for those who don't know what a pinch harmonic is, it's resting your finger on the string above a fret, and it is literally pinching and plucking the string of a guitar. And instead of getting a note like da, you're going to get a. It's like a whistle. It's like that. Yeah. Now you can just get the noise of the pinch, which is, and then if you do your whammy bar after playing it, it goes, and that's called a dive bomb, and you hear it so many times throughout the album.
And that's his signature
lick, isn't it? Yeah. But throughout the album, there is so much shredding. But my point is the dive bombs, the shredding, the sweep picking, the fast solos contradicts the simplicity of the riffs, but it works.
Well, I'm a big fan of words. What do they actually mean? Simple doesn't mean easy.
No, that's true.
Simple is simple. Easy is something else.
So I suppose you could say it's simple if the drum, bass, and rhythm guitar are playing simple things.
Yeah, I think
then it is a simple element to add a complicated instrument like a lead guitar.
Yeah, and I think what they achieved with the album is, okay, you can listen to it as a musician or someone who appreciates complexity in music or in instrumental parts and say, wow, this is really interesting. There's so much innovation. That's so different from everything I've heard before. But the main thing is you're going to have a good time. And you're going to enjoy, you're going to dance and going to shout when you're listening to it. And that's what I think that's what rock music is all about. It's about entertaining people, have a good time. And I think they've achieved that. And I would say that a big part of that is the vocals. Because David Lee Roth,
I was chatting really good this morning. I forgot who else David Lee Roth was. It Deep Purple?
No.
What did he sing for?
No, he had his solo band after that.
Has he not been with another famous band?
Not quite sure.
Okay, all right. I could have sworn he played with someone. I don't know, like Whitesnake or someone.
No, I don't think he ever played with
anyone else.
Not as big as.
But I agree.
I might be wrong. Do your research.
Tell me.
I don't know.
That'll teach me. Yeah. The vocals are a really important part of the album because I think that offers. Each instrument presents a different kind of style on this album. I feel the bass is quite metally. I feel the lead guitar is quite metally. I feel the rhythm guitar is very rocky. The drums are pretty rocky, and his vocals, I can't think of anyone else except Ian Gillan when he does those screams.
Yeah, like it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, Ian Gillan from Deep Purple.
It's aggressive, right?
Yes,
but it sounds to me, and I know he was a big fan of partying really hard and stuff, so it does sound to me like that is the kind of vocals that is it intends to invite you to party hard, and it's about, as I said, he shouts. I mean, in a technically acceptable way. It's not out of key.
No, not.
But that's the rock and rollness of it. It's not perfect. It's not. He's shouting, but he's got the technique. He's got everything.
Yeah.
But it makes it accessible. The way he sings, he communicates with everyone. It's easy to understand. The melodies are fairly simple. Again, simple.
Yeah. You're right.
The melodies are very straightforward. And they use the harmonies as well. So there's some elements of, like, let's put it like that, commercial music in there, like the vocal harmonies. And
I think that's what his voice offers.
Isn't
it? That's what it brings to this concoction.
Yeah. So Eddie could be playing something extremely complex on guitar, but the main melody of the song and the lyrics are still straightforward. Can I mention the fact that the title of the first song is really rock and roll?
It is, yeah.
I mean, running with the devil.
And it's so epic as well. I feel the way the song builds up, because you've just got that bass, haven't you? The bass and the drum, it's like dun, 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 and the guitar comes in. It's just layer by layer.
Yeah, I would even dare to say that sounds a bit like AC/DC because of the tempo and the fact that the bass and the drums are simple and solid.
Yeah, I can get behind that, yeah.
Not, not stylistically, but
in my notes, I felt Running in the Devil had a quite, just the bass and the drums, I thought that was quite metal, just very aggressive.
Yeah.
Dun, dun. Maybe it's because I was listening to the tone of the bass.
Yeah.
Which is very mid-rangey, very aggressive.
You
quite
like the bass, don't you?
Oh, well, I'm a bass player. The one thing I wanted to say before we start sort of talking about some of the songs we like is that I think another hugely important element that I don't think we've mentioned is that this is their debut album.
Oh, yeah.
And to come out with an album as good as this, with 11 songs as good as these on your debut album for the first try.
It's not for everyone. And I would mention that, like, the first 3 songs are completely insane. Because Running with the Devil, apart from, the rock and rollness of mentioning the devil in a song, and every single thing about it is rock and roll. It's pure rock and roll.
The big, long, held guitar chords.
It's riff-based. The guitar is in your face, the vocals are shouting, and the groove is dense and heavy. And then you have Eruption, which is basically just guitar. Is it really a song?
Yeah.
Or is it just a bunch of guitar noises in there? How much of that was actually written and prepared? How much is improvised? What is that track? What do you think about it?
Well, you might remember, and our listeners might remember, that all the way back in episode 3, where we spoke about Led Zeppelin 2. Yeah. We spoke about the song Heartbreaker, which Jimmy Page, after the first verse and chorus or the second verse, the song takes a break and Jimmy Page just does a guitar solo. And we said back in that episode that Eddie Van Halen actually came out and said that it was the likes of Heartbreaker and that Page solo that really inspired him to create a song like Eruption. So I think it is a song. It feels. I mean, I couldn't at all. I'm not a guitarist. I couldn't speak as to whether he's improvising or not. But at the very least, we know that he wanted the audience's attention on his guitar, and that's not in an attention-seeking way. It's just the lead guitar and what he is doing on the guitar. And this album is a hugely important instrument.
Yeah.
Now, with the song Heartbreaker, again, guys, we'll put it in the playlist. That solo comes in the middle of a song. There are chances for other members to shine before and after the solo. Robert Plant's vocals, John Paul Jones's bass, Bonham on the drums.
He could have started the album with Eruption.
Yeah.
But
my point is that the solo in Heartbreaker has come halfway through after a verse and a chorus, and after the solo comes another verse and a chorus. Yeah. Eddie wanted all their attention on the guitar for one song, and that song is called Eruption.
And it's just guitar.
It is,
I think they were totally aware that if people would remember them for one thing, would be for that unique guitar sound and style, right? There's no one. I mean, there's a few musicians that changed the history of their instruments, and
Eddie's one of them, surely.
Exactly. He was as important as Jimi Hendrix, in my opinion, for guitar. Because what Hendrix did, until Jimi Hendrix, you had people playing guitars, right? John Lennon was a guitar player. George Harrison, Eric Clapton. But those guys were still mostly songwriters, right? Although Clapton kind of managed to stand out as a soloist. Yeah. But they were still mainly songwriters playing guitar.
Yeah.
Sorry for Clapton fans, I love him, but he is a songwriter first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of his solos, by the way. But I'm just saying that Eddie was Hendrix was okay, look at me, I'm playing guitar. Even if you don't like my vocals or my melodies or my lyrics, you're going to still be really impressed by my guitar skills. So he was, for me, in rock music, the first one to put the guitar on the spotlight. I would say Chuck Berry first, okay? Chuck Berry, because he was playing the riff and dancing with the guitar. So the image of guitar playing right from the beginning was Chuck Berry dancing, walking around the stage, playing riffs that no one has heard before. And then you had Hendrix, right? So those two say, Hendrix was like, come on, look at the guitar. And it's all about the guitar, the effects, the solos, the psychedelic bits. And then Eddie Van Halen was like, okay, can we take this to another level? And it's a big jump from Hendrix.
That's really true, because what you mentioned about Hendrix and the effects that of what he made his guitar sound like. Eddie Van Halen is doing stuff, and again, I just need to reiterate that we are not guitarists, so we can't speak to when the first notable use of sweep picking was. But at least in a broad sense, in terms of on an album, cemented in a piece of musical history, Eddie Van Halen is pioneering and innovating these guitar techniques that don't rely on the effects of a pedal.
Yeah.
The stuff you're hearing is him utilising the strings and the whammy bar of a guitar to a different extent.
So it's coming more out of the instrument than of the
yes, it's a furtherment and an advancement of that was a tongue twister, isn't it? And an advancement of guitar techniques.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, and that's all demonstrated on Eruption. So you want some shredding, go and listen to the second track, Eruption.
Yeah, so just mentioning, he was bringing those advanced guitar techniques into accessible music.
Yes, yeah.
Right? So just to
that's
quote,
that's a great point, yeah.
like long ago, so I won't remember the right words, but I was reading this interview with David Gilmour. You know some music journalists, they like trying to make a musician criticize another one so they can get that perfect quote for the headlines or whatever. So basically, they because Gilmour is famous for playing not many notes and make them sound great, and like long notes with bends and shit. And obviously, the guy was trying to compare him to someone who plays in a completely different style. And he asked Gilmour, "So what do you think about Eddie Van Halen? It doesn't play like you, does it?" It's like, and he was like, "Well, you know what? I'm a big fan. I love him, and he's a great guy. And every time I listen to Van Halen, I want to get up and dance." So that was Dave Gilmour talking about Van Halen.
That's interesting though, we're talking about the sweep picking and the dive bombing and the shredding on the guitar, and Gilmour's talking about how he wants to tap his feet and move his body.
Yeah, because Gilmour is not into that kind of guitar playing anyway. Yeah, good point. So he wouldn't listen to, even being a guitar player, you don't have to listen to Van Halen because of the guitar. You just want to dance and have a good time.
Yeah. The next track, You Really Got Me, is really interesting, and you guys might remember when we did the Paranoid episode, we had this discussion about Black Sabbath and whether or not they were metal. Through what I've learned and through reading quite a bit about musicology and the history behind sort of certain genres, You Really Got Me is a song by the Kinks, for those that don't know. This is a cover on this album, and the Kinks version is pretty much the same as this, but the riff from You Really Got Me, da-da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-da-dun, the Kinks version of that riff is supposedly, in musical history, it's labelled as the first ever heavy metal riff. I can't remember when the Kinks did it. Was it 64?
60s,
yeah, 64,
60s, right?
66 or something. And we said to you the first heavy metal song, Helter Skelter by the Beatles, the first heavy metal lyrics, Painted Black by the Stones. I just found it really funny and coincidental that in an album which has largely been accredited to innovating and pioneering this glam metal, pop metal, they do a cover of a song which is classed as being having the first heavy metal riff.
No, but how important is that? Because one interesting thing in rock and roll is if a new band recycles what the other bands have done. I think it's important for rock history. How many rock fans got to know that song for the first time through Van Halen?
Yeah, I imagine loads.
And then you go back and listen to the Kinks. The Who recorded that song, I guess, as well.
Oh, really?
I think they did.
Cool.
Yeah, it might be wrong. I'm pretty sure they did that. So you go back and listen to that and think, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah.
So that's a classic rock riff that people covered and was too heavy for the time. So it sounds to me like as if Eddie Van Halen was like, okay, how would they have done it today? With the studio resources, production, and with the new guitar techniques that are coming up. Yeah,
fantastic.
So why not? But it's a dangerous territory. to record a version of a song that is widely accepted anyway. Everyone loves it.
Yeah.
People who know that song could say, "Oh, that's shit," but I don't think you can possibly criticize this.
No, it's a
because
brilliant cover.
just
I love the
cover.
Kinks, but
Yeah.
this is a great cover.
It is.
The thing to talk about that is on this album there are actually a few examples of them, in my opinion, and I'm just completely guessing, but look, right, I'll take you to the tracks. Number 3, You Really Got Me. Number 5, I'm the One. And number 10, Ice Cream Man. Now, as we've just spoken about, number 3, You Really Got Me. Number 5, I'm the One. I really hear like a Stevie Ray Vaughan sound in that song.
Ooh,
just that shuffle, the
really
country kind of vibes, but quite heavy with the distorted guitar,
Yeah.
right? Track number 10, Ice Cream Man, is a cover of a blues song by a guy called John Brim.
Yeah.
And that is obviously a blues cover.
Yeah.
You basically, if what I'm saying is what happened, you got Van Halen paying homage and saying thank you to the Kinks, who were pop in the 60s. No, I'm not saying Stevie Ray Vaughan, but music of that nature, the kind of heavy country music, and blues with Ice Cream Man.
Yeah.
Yet we've got an album which is almost definitely hard rock and could be considered glam metal.
Yeah.
So paying homage to blues, country and pop
Yeah.
in an album.
In 1978.
In
where
1978.
Punk was big.
Exactly. So I just thought that was really interesting that 3 of the 11 songs
They do
are
have a
not-
reference to punk, atomic punk.
exactly, yeah, track 7.
Yeah.
I just found it
2.5
interesting that the all other here's my maths is terrible. All other 8 tracks have a consistency of genre, whatever you want to label it.
Yeah.
Glam metal, hard rock, classic rock, whatever. They're all consistent.
But then
Whereas
you have
those
the
other
blues.
3, they're just a bit different, aren't they? I just
Yeah,
found
yeah.
that quite interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's like, it is. It's interesting that you kind of, again, recycling, let's put it like that.
Yeah.
You're showing people where music came from. You got to think that before Google and YouTube and all that stuff, sometimes you would only have access to what is trendy,
Yeah.
Someone released an album, everyone's talking about it, go and buy it. Where does that come from? And if the band and that album, if they recorded a cover,
Yeah.
it makes you immediately think, oh, wait a minute, they didn't write that one. So, I can figure out where they came from by just listening to the original version of that song. It's not like, it wasn't as simple as just going on Spotify or
I'll just
or
finding
Google
it.
and so, who wrote that but, so yeah, they are looking to the past, and acknowledging the importance of those things.
How many
But
times have we
also-
said this about
yeah.
Sabbath playing the blues in their first album, Zeppelin playing the blues in their first album?
The blues is everywhere.
Yeah. But
Blues is everywhere. I think we should do an episode about the blues, because blues is rock and roll. But anyway,
we'll get there.
we've got to get there.
Is there a track you want to talk about next? I mean,
I want to talk about my favorite thing in the whole album.
do it. Which one?
Do you know what I like about rock music is when you have the one thing that you're not expecting at all. It's like, wow, that's unpredictable. And although it's a guitar-based album, the vocals are great, etc. Alex Van Halen is one of my favorite drummers, really fantastic player. My favorite part of the whole album is the doo-wop vocals, and I'm the One.
Oh yeah, towards the end, isn't it? Oh yeah,
With the jazz hi-hats.
I can't remember, how does the rhythm go? Sing it. I've forgotten it. I listened to it yesterday.
I won't dare to sing it.
It's like, but it's just the song breaks down. It's like, I remember. It's bab shua, bab shua,
Yes.
bab shua, and then the harmony comes in. Bab shua, bab shua.
Yeah,
Out
that's
of
it. That was
nowhere on this hard rock album, you get some doo-wop. Just for 30 seconds though. But doesn't it make it so different? It makes it fresh.
Again, I imagine maybe that came up as a joke. And obviously, if you listen to that hi-hat, that's pure like jazz swing hi-hats, and it plays. It's a simple pattern, but the way he plays it, it shows that Alex Van Halen has enough knowledge of that style to play it to that standard and to fit into a song that has nothing to do with that genre or not directly. So I think just one thing about, not about this song but about the album in general, what they take it to an extreme level, that song, by adding the doo-wop vocals and the harmonies. But one thing that they do all the time, and I think I've heard it in at least half of the songs now, is to, after a really loud chorus and really powerful section of the song, they bring the dynamics down.
Yeah, they do that on Ain't Talking About Love.
They do that.
The use
You
of
really
dynamics
got me-
on that song is fantastic.
Yeah, there's one part of You Really Got Me is pretty much just drums and vocals, I guess, like really
Things
quiet.
like the third verse, yeah,
Yeah.
it all drops out. It's
Yeah.
See, don't ever let me be. And it just,
Yeah.
so nicely.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing I really want to touch on, Jamie's Crying, I love that song. See, I didn't know that my dad used to play this album to me when I was younger, and I remember tracks like Jamie's Crying,
Really?
Running with the Devil. Those are the only ones I remember. So, and I haven't listened to this in years, so when I heard it a few days ago for the episode, it was just wonderful, because it's a fantastic album. Again, just like I was alluding to at the start of the episode, I just want to touch a little bit on what it's done for sort of metal, because if you look at the track number 11, On Fire, you've got the metal riffs, the dark chords used. They're quite minor, the chords. They take you to... They're very Sabbathy, the chords, even though the song isn't a Sabbath song. The solo of On Fire is absolutely fantastic, and it's just, another testament to Van Halen's fantastic guitar playing. Atomic Punk, loads of guitar harmonics and dive bombs on there. Jamie's Crying is quite a heavy song as well. The main riff is dunk, 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 dunk. To Jamie's Crying, despite the 3-part harmony, which is so beautiful and poppy and accessible with that heavy rhythm by the bass and drums. What this did, and why this was so important, is that this album essentially paved the way for modern metal and established a new direction it could go in. It could tell bands, and do you know what? We don't need to be dark. We don't just need to sing about Satan. If we're looking at Sabbath,
Or
looking at you, Black Sabbath.
Or we don't need to be punk.
No,
'Cause
yeah.
punk music is just, for me, it's such an interesting part of rock history, and it was so important and so connected to the reality of the time.
Yeah, and they're representing the people.
But at the same time, 1978, when punk was big, you had Dire Straits doing something more elaborate, and then you had Van Halen doing like really loud rock with loads of notes on guitar. So even though there's one genre that's dominating the scene at a certain point in time, doesn't mean that you can't do something different and still succeed. You could do something different and fail.
Yeah.
But it's not easy to not follow the trend and still deliver great results and achieve commercial success. So
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
I just think it's kind of, it almost goes without saying, and just to say that the likes, I cannot see a world where without Van Halen we still get the likes of Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Whitesnake. I just feel like Van Halen were that essential stepping stone from the likes of Sabbath, Zeppelin and Purple to get to where to get to the accessibility but still the heaviness of the likes of Whitesnake, Foreigner, Ratt, Poison. I feel like Van Halen were that catalyst.
And the brothers, both of them contributed for that. Right, as I said before, if you want to be a rock guitar player, you need to understand Chuck Berry, Jimi Hendrix, and Eddie Van Halen. Yeah. And I would say, if you only had time for 3 guitar players, you should go for those 3. I'm not a guitar player, but...
that's your opinion, man.
But that's my opinion.
Much, yeah.
And if someone... Or let's say, if you're a drummer, bass player, you want to understand what rock guitar is, start from those guys and try to analyze it, because those were the big jumps. Chuck Berry brought the riff to the guitar world for real, and then you had Hendrix taking the solos to another level, and then you have Eddie Van Halen doing both to a level that no one has done before.
It's true.
And it's so, it's so good to listen to their music. It's so cheerful somehow.
It is, because it's still got that poppy accessibility. The track number 8, "Feel Your Love Tonight," that's the poppiest song on the album.
Yeah,
but it's not worse than the other songs because of that. You just want to sing along more.
It's all well played, isn't it? I wonder how long it took for them to record the album, because if they did live, it sounds like they kind of playing a couple of gigs and recording them.
Yeah, well, you could. I don't know.
That might be my favourite thing about the album, is the fact that it sounds live, and I didn't know how they recorded it until you brought the information. So for me, it's clear that it's live.
Yeah. I think we've actually touched on all the songs there. Is there anything else you want to sort of finish with or chat about?
I want to mention one characteristic of Alex's Van Halen drumming. One of the most important things about rock drumming is a solid backbeat, which beats 2 and 4. You know, when everyone should be clapping, but they not always. So 1, 2, 3, 4, you're clapping with this snare drum. He does something in a few songs in the album which is really cool, which is what Roger Taylor from Queen used to do. He opens the hi-hat slightly to emphasize that. So that is one example of his more detail, of how careful he was with his drumming to make one small thing help the main groove, you know, to stand out. And although he plays some really complex patterns for the fills and stuff, the grooves are straightforward and solid. And you can say the same about Michael Anthony, the bass player. He locks with that drum groove in such a way. So as a band, they are phenomenal. Everyone is going to talk about how fantastic Eddie Van Halen is as a guitar player, how much he has contributed to the world of guitar. But my final consideration is, this is a great album to listen and dance to. And it's just really, really fun to listen to.
It's hard in any way to disagree with that. I mean, what I found myself doing was enjoying this. You know, I was singing along. You know, I hadn't heard "Feel Your Love Tonight" for when my dad used to play it to me 15 years ago, and yet when I listened to it the other day, I was like, I just want to feel. I was singing along with it. At the same time, marvelling at Eddie Van Halen's sweep picking and shredding on the guitar. There's so much to take from this album, whether it's the unity of the harmonies in the vocals, or the fantastic technique demonstrated on Van Halen's guitar playing, or the rhythm section. I've mentioned that a few times this episode, just constantly holding the groove the whole way through. It's just marvellous, man. It's a fantastic album.
Isn't it that you can have great musicians playing their parts really well, but that doesn't actually mean that the music coming out of it is going to be entertaining, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's clearly what they wanted. They didn't want music to be appreciated in a way. Oh, let me sit down, drink my whiskey, and analyze how good is the instrumental bits of it. No, they wanted people to have a good time, and I think they definitely achieved that. And it was an important milestone for rock music, wasn't it? It does change everything that comes after it. So
I feel like it was one of the most defining albums. I feel like this album, because of how many people and bands and albums it influenced afterwards, I feel like looking back retrospectively, it was probably the album that told us what rock and roll was going to look like in the 80s.
That's amazing.
It's like great. Looking back on it now, this album was preparing us for what was to come in the 80s.
Because because the decades, they don't change like that. Oh, it's 79, then it's 1980. Now everything changes. The changes are coming. Gradually, and that's it. That's an album from the late 70s that actually explains what the 80s.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
It's like, if you want to understand 80s rock, hard rock and glam rock, listen to that album.
Exactly, yeah. Excellent. I think there's a good place to leave it. We've sort of spoken about all the songs. It's just a brilliant album. I mean, go and listen to it. It'll be in the playlist at the bottom of the show notes.
Thanks for making me listen to this album again.
That's all right. No, it's fine. Thank you to my uncle for suggesting it. And as we said at the start, listeners, email us if you want us to do any album or band and discuss it for an episode.
We will give priority to family members, apparently.
We've only had Rumble Crest. That's what it is. Okay. We only did the first one. I'll leave you with this quote from a Van Halen biographer called Greg Renoff. And it's a quote about the album. So, when rock fans dropped the needle on Van Halen, they didn't hear lengthy, self-indulgent jams or lumbering, doomy dirges. On the contrary, they heard a streamlined sonic assault that combined metal's power, energy and virtuosity with shimmering pop sensibility. In doing so, they invented pop metal, radio-friendly, hard rock, catchy enough that it could sell millions in a musical climate that was flat-out hostile to the genre.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Quite metal heavy, as in I feel like more could be said for what it did for classic rock or pop.
Yeah.
But he summed it all up. That they've taken some elements of heavy music and interspersed it with accessible pop stuff. And it's a great album, isn't it?
It is phenomenal.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us on another episode, guys. We hope you enjoyed this one as well. Playlists at the bottom of the show notes. Do the normal stuff, like, subscribe, comment. Felipe, tell them where they can find us.
You can find us on the internet.
There we go. So see you somewhere on the internet. That's how you can get in contact with
Not
us.
somewhere, everywhere.
Via the internet.
If
yeah.
there's a platform, we're going to be there. Yeah. So,
Anyway,
and
so-
if we should be somewhere else on the internet, let us know.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us, guys.
Bring the levels up to 11 whenever possible and keep on rocking.
And as usual, long live rock and roll.